Hi there, welcome to another episode of the Bonsai Stuff podcast. Flying solo, as always, your host, Scott Martin from Bonsai Matsu. Thank you very much for listening in. I love the company, thank you. It's midway, well, we're over midway now. We're 2/3 of the way through summer in Australia, and it's been tough. down in Melbourne, the extremes that we get come through at this time of the year. They can sometimes knock you for six. And this year certainly has been the case. I reckon it's been, from my memory, probably 3 or 4 years since we've had this kind of brutal, dry, hot heat. You know, getting up into the mid 40s it's not unusual, but it seems to be becoming more and more common, and it takes its toll, not only on us but on the trees definitely. So now that we're at this point in the year, I think it's time in this podcast just talk about a few things you need to review around the yard. And look, I'll put my hand around your shoulder and I'll let you know that if you've had issues with your trees, you are 100% not alone. It's common. I've had so many messages myself. I've been affected by it. It's almost impossible not to be affected by this hot heat that when it kicks through. Anything above 40 odd degrees Celsius tends to show any imperfections in your system, any slight weaknesses, any kind of problems, they get magnified in that kind of a condition. So we'll have a bit of a chat about that. And also another one, when it gets time to work on trees, I just want to give you a bit of a motivational speech on where to get cracking from. So let's get into it. Early February, it's close to calendar. We've got 1 month left on the calendar to finish this summer period, but we all know that that's not the case. It rolls through well and truly into the March period where we get these extreme weather conditions. I remember always as a kid, the hottest time of the year was after you went back to school. You had your summer holidays. It was quite cool at the start of it, possibly even some rain, and then as we got back into school, early Feb, March, the weather seemed to get a little bit hotter, a little bit out of control. And I look around now. I've been very lucky recently to share a bit of personal information with you. My oldest daughter got married, so I was away for a little period when this extreme heat was on. Terrifying to leave the trees at that time, but such a great time in my life. And I remember when we left, looked around at a few of the lawns, the grass areas, and they were nice and still green. Come back and everything's brown. Everything's dried out. So that summer period has really kicked in now to show that, hey, it's here to stay, and it's starting to dry everything out. Garden trees, I mentioned it before in an earlier podcast, some of my garden trees for the first time in forever are needing watering because the conditions have got so extreme and so dry that everything's starting to feel it. So for me, I look at times like this. I want to use the podcast to reassure you, you're not alone. If something's happened, then that's the way it is. You can't change what you can't change. Hopefully things aren't too bad. I look at my system. It's been tested for so many years now. This watering system and not being here and whatever else. And I'm probably at a 99% pass rate for my yard, which I'm really, really happy with. But there's always improvements that I can make, and it's time for me now, and I'd encourage you as well to think about what can change or what needs to change for next year. Now, I've had so many messages from people about, this tree's affected, that tree's affected. It's never had this problem before. It's never had that problem before. But you need to, I suppose, break it down to the root cause. Often it's repotting is a common issue for trees being affected at this time of the year, because it's the tree's inability to take up the water that you're giving the tree, or for that water to permeate through the root system or the root ball or the root mass or the soil medium to be able to access it to get up to the foliage before it gets absolutely fried. So on days where it's mid temperature, mid-20s, something like that, no problem, no issue. But you get up a couple of days in a row where it's high 30s, early 40 degrees Celsius, and you've got some serious problems, and that converting it for the northern hemisphere be about 110 Fahrenheit, something like that. I think I was told the other day that's extreme. That's where we're at, and it seems to bounce around a lot too, which is I look over in the sort of the west of Australia, and their temperature seems to be just pretty consistently high, whereas we seem to get those massive high fluctuations where it'll drop, maybe to mid-20s, and next day it's mid-40s, and it's that chopping and changing, I think, that really magnifies any issues that you've got. So this brutal weather just makes you stay on your toes, which makes me stay on my toes, where I look at things and go, just don't get complacent. So when it gets to repotting for me, late winter, early spring, I look at that time of the year and I think to right now. Like, my focus always is on this mid-summer period, because that's when your trees, without being overly dramatic, it's a live or die sort of environment where if things just let slide and she'll be okay, it's all right, I don't need to worry about that, I can do that later on. This is the time that you sort of look at it and go, well, damn, I should have done something about it. I should have repotted, I should have put up that shade cloth, I should have had that sprinkler system put in for when I'm at work and I can't be here to water and it's extreme conditions. I should have had a backup plan. I should have, whatever you should have done. It's fine. Don't dwell on it too long and be too harsh on yourself, because it happens to absolutely everyone listening to this podcast, and anyone anywhere around the world that has bonsai will, one point or another, be affected by extreme weather, hot or cold, whatever it is. You will pay the price somewhere along the way. And if you say that it hasn't happened, you haven't been doing bonsai long enough, because it happens to everybody. So it's a matter of now making sure that you're on that front foot to look at it and go, well, yeah, okay, so I've still got a month, 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks left of these conditions that could pop their ugly head up at any time. So what do you need to do right now? It's not too late to put up a misting system just to cool the environment down. It doesn't need to be anything that's going to maybe completely water your trees for you, but just something that, a few bucks down the local hardware store, might sort of help alleviate those extreme heat conditions. Maybe it's a piece of shade cloth that temporarily gets knocked up and put over your trees in whatever space it is, or whatever it is that you've got to do. Maybe you've got to get the screwdriver out there and aerate some of those compact root balls to make sure the water can actually get in there. Trees that have been affected, like what's your process for a tree that's had its leaves turn crispy? What are you going to do? Do you look at putting it into a shallow tray of water to help it retain more moisture? Do you only fill up that water tray when you look at the forecast and go, right, today we're mid-30s, right, that water tray is getting filled up. Tomorrow's back to 20, all right, I'm going to empty the water tray. Oh, the next day's 45, right, fill the water tray back up again. There's definitely things you can do in a really short-term approach that don't cost the earth, but make such a drastic impact on your tree's ability to get through that period. Maybe it's the positioning of the trees. Maybe you look at the ones that have been affected and go, okay, well, you little babies are going to get to a point where you're out of the sun now. That's it. I'm going to take you out of that position where it's maybe got strong winds that plow through that area to be in a more sheltered position, just temporarily, just for the next interim period of let's say a month or something like that, just to get through, to make sure they're going to be okay. Sometimes you can't do that. I understand that. I understand that not every yard has room to move things around. So it's a matter of you having a look at it and saying to yourself, all right, what's reasonable? What can I reasonably do now with my trees? Maybe it's, let's say you're on a balcony or a little courtyard and there's nowhere they can move them. Maybe they just come inside, put them in the laundry for the day. If that is if you've got, a small enough collection. But, if you've got a big enough collection, maybe there's a garden tree somewhere around the yard where you can put these things under that garden tree on the ground, just temporarily, just to sort of help alleviate it. Maybe it's going out buying, 20 tea towels and soak them in water, and before you go to work every morning, you just put those wet tea towels around the pots. Anything just to get you through this next extreme period. I know it's, for me, when I look at the weather forecast, it sends a bit of a shiver up your spine when you see those extremes, and you look at the longer forecasts, maybe for a week or 10 days. Not that they're always accurate, but you look at it and you think to yourself, how am I going to get through that? Like in the next 7 days, there's 3 days in the 40s. Like, that's going to be absolutely extreme heat, and it just feels like you can't turn your back on your trees. And not that I'm saying I don't want you to turn your back on your trees, but try and just think of all these other different strategies that you can use that maybe will help the tree get through that little period. It might be if it's possible, still a work from home scenario on those extreme days, and you get out there and you miss them and you water them and you check on them, and just do whatever you can, because it's like everyone's been through the extreme heat now. 2 months into summer, no matter where you are around Australia, you will have copped a bit of a flogging from the sun. So and I know from the sheer number of messages that I got, it's funny. Sorry, it's not funny. It was coincidental that we had 2 40-degree days very close, within a couple of days of each other. And on that first day, I maybe got 1 or 2 messages. For that second 40-degree day, the messages came flooding in that the trees just hadn't recovered from the first one, and then a second one came along. It's like, okay, well, what do I do? How do I, and it was just picture after picture after picture of cooked foliage, burnt needles, whatever it was. It was absolute. It was mayhem, and my heart goes out to everybody, because I was in the same boat too. I had a beautiful native that sits in a tray of water. Did everything I should have done. It was wired down, tied down, perfect. Go out there after one of those days, and it had blown over. And the whole top of the foliage now on that tree is cooked, dead, still alive. Thankfully, natives are pretty tough with this sort of stuff. And I've found, talking about natives, I've found that if you do put them in the right environment, not all of my natives are in water trays. Certainly some are, but others that aren't, that I feel don't sort of warrant being in water trays, are thriving. They're in these extreme 40-degree temperatures, and they're pushing new growth. It's like, what other tree can handle the Australian environment? So, it's another reminder, I suppose, to me and to everybody, that Australian natives definitely should be a significant portion of your bonsai collection, because they can handle these environments. And I know things are getting more extreme. Things are getting hotter, and trees that maybe shouldn't be in these environments, because that's not where they grow naturally. They're the ones I think that you'll find will have the biggest problems, and they'll definitely have the biggest setbacks. And it's for me, it's sheer time before those varieties suddenly fall off the perch. And for me, it's something like a larch in Melbourne. I love larch. I have nothing against them. I reckon they're an absolutely magnificent tree. And in certain climates, they thrive. But in my yard, where I get these extreme heats, all it takes is one hot summer day and they are done. So, I learnt my lesson the hard way. Spent years with one. Made it look beautiful. I loved it. One of my favourite trees in the collection. Like, just so pretty, so elegant. But I now know that it's just not possible to have that variety in my collection. So whenever I see someone or they ask my advice, I pass it on, because it just leads to heartache. And it might not be this year. It might not be next year. It might not be the one after. But sooner or later, those trees just are not built for this climate that we have. I mean, all my life we've had extreme summers. We've had high temperatures, definitely. We're starting to crack some records now. I saw in parts of Victoria it was like 49 degrees Celsius. And we were the hottest place on the planet just the other day. So, it's the extremes that are getting to me. It's not, it's the strong winds. Like I cannot tell you how nervous I am when I'm asleep in bed and I hear that wind howling through the place. I cannot tell you that feeling that I get where I wake up. It's probably the worst night's sleep I ever have is when we have strong winds, as well as some warm temperature as well. But I've got this massive callistemon that's in an enormous pot. Like the thing, it weighs a ton. Like it weighs a hernia, to be honest. And that got blown off the bench. It was tied down. The thing weighs at least 35 kilos, maybe more, and it got blown off the bench. So, you can do everything you can plan for, everything you can build in. Mother Nature turns around and goes, well, you know what? I've got a different story for you. And it's just a lesson to us all that we try and control as much as we can, but we're not in control. We're being sort of pushed and played, and all we can do is just the best we possibly can, And it's not over yet. That's my point, I suppose, is you've still got time. Don't put your head in the sand. You've got time to get in there and have a look at things. Anything above 40 degrees is going to take its toll, no matter what. I've got trees that I have, I tick all the boxes. I go back and I do the review I'm thinking about this one trident maple that I've got. It's got leaf burn. It's probably the only one in my collection that's got it, but it's like, okay, what did I do? What have I done wrong? Look at the watering. Yep, watering. It's got 3 different lines covering it, so it's more than covered. Check the system. Is every part of the pot getting water? Yes, it is. Okay, great. When was it repotted? It was repotted this year. Right, okay. Was it rested? Was it fertilised? Was it this? Was it that? Was it pruned back prior to the heat getting here? Was everything done that I possibly could be done? And honestly, the answer is yes. It's like, well, okay. There's nothing I can do about that. Absolutely nothing I can do about it. It was in a good spot. It was protected. It was this. It was that. Well, if that's the case, then so be it. I'm not going to be critical of myself. I'm not going to stand there and lash my back with branches, because it's just something that I can't control. Mother Nature is going to do what she's going to do. And the bonsai gods, I've ticked all the boxes. I've made all the sacrifices. I've done everything I possibly could. And when that happens, it's just like, well, okay, that's the way it is. That's bonsai in this modern environment. And is it going to get worse? Yep, I'd reckon it definitely is going to get worse. So, start thinking about it. What needs to change for next year? And look around your own yard. Have a look at the trees that have done really well. Review it. Okay, what did I do with those trees? Why are they doing so well? All right, the ones that didn't do so well, what didn't get done, or what was different, or what do you need to change? And look. Knuckle it back down to the soil that these trees are in. And often a common scenario, common cause that I come back to with so many different people is the soil that it's in makes such a big difference. When you get them into good bonsai soil, they tend to have less problems. When they're in an organic mix, maybe still in the nursery mix, that's when I tend to find you have more problems with the trees at this point, because even though they can retain a lot of water, they can't get that water up into their foliage because it's just not physically possible. They just don't have the root system to be able to do it. So knuckle it back, do your midsummer review, look at what you can possibly make a change on now for the next period of this warm extreme weather, and cross your fingers, because sometimes that's the best we can do. Right, so let's act like a tree and compartmentalise all that summer talk. Let's put that away for now, and let's talk about something when you're working on your trees, which is something more positive. Let's change direction. Let's not talk about worst case scenarios and extremes and things we're going to have issues with. Let's just talk about when you've got a tree in front of you, and this comes up because, as I talked about last episode, junipers for me now are a common thing. I see a lot come through the workshop, and I get sent a lot of pictures. And the common thing is, what do I do? Here's the tree. It looks like a bit of a bush. It's had good 6-12 months worth of growth. Sometimes it's a bit daunting to look at it. I worked on a big juniper recently, and this thing's massive, over a metre tall. and it was just foliage. It hadn't been worked for a long time, and it was just foliage. You could see when you looked in there and you spread it apart. You look, there's a beautiful trunk in there. There's so much beautiful dead wood that needs to be exposed, and it's so like you can see why some trees just don't get worked, because I assess trees pretty quickly based on the number of hours that I need to put into them, and I look at this one and I go, wow, me working flat out, that's probably a day. that's a solid day. So anyone that's a little bit slower or hesitant, it's probably 3 or 4 days work, or maybe a week. You could really just do it bit by bit. So I can understand where things get daunting. When it's done, it's like, okay, now I can see if I just do this little bit, that little bit, this little bit, then it'll be okay. I'll stay on top of it. But when you've got that blob of foliage in front of you, and it's like, I know there's a beautiful bonsai in here somewhere. I know that if I do the right work, it'll be beautiful. And it's that thought of not doing the right work that can sort of make you go, well, I might just leave it. I might put it aside. I might go to that other one because that's a bit easier for me. So I'll do that one. But the best advice that I can give you is just start somewhere. Just pick a point. It doesn't, we talk about cleaning things out from the apex down because of gravity helping you clean off. It doesn't matter if the easiest part for you to start is one little branch that's sitting down the lowest part of the tree, and you can make a few cuts and make that look good. Just start. Just do something. Don't leave it. Don't put it back on the bench. Don't bypass it when you walk past. Don't think it's a job for the future, because I'm guaranteeing you just keep putting it off and off and off. You should be looking at these trees going, okay, I accept the challenge, and I'm gonna do something with it. My old adage, I've been pumping this out for years. Doing something is so much better, 1,000,000 times more. It's doing something is the best thing you can do when you compare it to doing nothing. And maybe not doing it all perfectly. Maybe you finish it and go, well, that could have been better. That's for next time. That's for somewhere in the future. Don't worry about it. But doing something with your trees, starting somewhere, is so much more beneficial to you. You'll build your confidence up. You'll get your skills right. But it's also much better for your trees. I equate working on bonsai and doing the regular maintenance work, right, is like riding a bike. You might be a bit rusty at the start, but you get 10 minutes into doing that work, it's like, yeah, here it is. It's back. I know what I'm doing. And pay attention to your technique. Make sure that you're only cutting what you want to cut. Make sure that it's cut perfectly. Don't rush it. You don't have to, just because some muppet like me gets in there and says, oh, that's 3 hours work. I don't care if it's 3 weeks work for someone else. Just do it and enjoy it. Enjoy the process. But take that first step. Get into it. And if in doubt, if there's anything that you're thinking, wow, I just don't know what to do, think back to what I say. Always start with the unders. Always get rid of that growth underneath the branches. It's a really nice, gentle way of starting work on any variety. You might need some of that undergrowth for future branch direction, sure. And if you cut it off, what are you going to do? Well, you can wire the branch, but it is a lovely way just to get your scissors out and build up your confidence. Just start with cutting underneath. Don't worry about the shape. Don't worry about what it's going to look like in the end. Don't stress too much about, do I remove this branch? Do I cut this branch off? Yeah, I really don't care at this point. Just get going. Start doing it. Start working with the unders on the branches. You'll sit back at the end of, an hour, 2 hours, 10 minutes, 3 weeks, whatever it is, however long it takes to cut all the unders of the branches, you'll sit back and you'll go, oh, that looks better. I guarantee it. Absolutely guarantee it. Without wiring, without anything else, just removing all that foliage from underneath the branches, you'll sit back and you'll feel $1,000,000. And the tree will look so much better. And then start doing the work. Then start thinking about branch selection. Start thinking about your pad shape and structure. Start thinking about your apex. Start thinking about wiring. Start thinking about your trunk line, all that stuff. But just to take that first step on the tree, and even if it stops there, even if you go, okay, well, that's enough. your confidence. You'll take that step forward, and next time, take further steps. Don't be in a rush. Don't be critical. Don't be harsh on yourself. Just take that first step and start somewhere, because anything is far better for the tree than nothing. We talk about things getting too long and leggy and extending and whatever else. That primarily comes from doing nothing, because the branches keep pushing out, the foliage keeps getting thicker, the inner buds start to die, so the branches start getting longer and longer, and all their foliage sits on the outside. So if you're looking at a tree now thinking, well, I don't have that, but I still don't know where to start, if you don't start, I guarantee you that somewhere in the future you will have that exact scenario where you look at the tree when you do have the confidence, you do have the what you deem to be the skill set to take it on. It'll be too late. You'll look at that tree and go, I've destroyed it. I've just left it alone. I've let all this foliage get on the outside. Now I've got nothing on the interior. By the time you want to work on it, it's going to be, well, you're going to start thinking about, grafting and how do I get back budding into this inner area. Whereas if you just, for now, got in there and just took off the unders, maybe, I know we want branches, sacrifice branches to extend and grow and trunks to thicken and all that sort of stuff. That can all mess with your head when you're looking at a tree originally. Maybe just taking the tips off those branches to stop them getting longer. Clean the unders, take the tips off. Yeah, sure. Somewhere down the track you can start a sacrifice branch. You can look at thickening the trunk and all that sort of stuff. But for now, if you don't know what to do, and if you're floundering, and if you're going round and round in circles, just do that. Unders and take the tips off. Just keep that growth in nice and close, and then somewhere down the track you can come back to it. But, I get so many messages about uncertainty and insecurity, I suppose, is more important, where people are wondering, what the hell do I do now? Or where the hell do I start? My message is always the same. Just start somewhere. It's not going to be the end of the world if you do something and it's not right. If you don't, then it's the first step to the end of that tree and being a great bonsai. So take my advice, just get the scissors out, clean them, sharpen them, and just start somewhere. All right, let's wrap this baby up. Episode 3, Season 8, Bonsai Stuff Podcast. Thank you for listening in. And one of the positives, as you know, if you've listened to more than about 10 seconds of this podcast, I do focus on positivity. I'd like to think myself as a positive person that absolutely adores and loves bonsai and loves the fact that other people share my passion. So one of the positive things about summer is we don't have to mow our lawns quite so much when it gets to this point in the year, which, it's, for me, it's great. I love it. I don't enjoy looking at brown grass, but I sure do like not getting out there and pushing a mower around for a couple of hours every week trying to keep the place nice and neat. So there's my positive tip for you on summer. I do enjoy the warm weather as well. I prefer it over the extreme cold, but I know it's a tough time that. And when I finish recording this podcast, the very first thing I'm going to do is go and do a walk around my trees and just double check them, make sure they're all okay. Spot watering is great. Using watering cans is a brilliant idea, because turning the hose on or your sprinkler system or whatever else, might not be needed everywhere. You might be looking at 10% of your collection might need more frequent watering, and if you can be there. And if you are available, which it's, don't beat yourself up if you can't, but if you can be there and do that spot watering, then it makes a massive difference. So for me, using a water can just to stay on top of it in those in between watering periods makes such a big difference. And treating your trees as unique. Not all the trees need water at the same time. They don't all dry out at the same time. And this is where, more often than not, I find my system sort of trips over when I'm not around, or I'm not available to hand water the trees or to check them on a regular basis. And I'm sure it's the same for absolutely everyone that lives in the real world that can't be with their bonsai collection. And you shouldn't be with your bonsai collection 24/7. life's a beautiful thing, and you want to make sure that you're out and about doing what you love. And for me, it's getting down to the beach on those beautiful days, not standing around in my backyard with a watering can, making sure that I'm watering them at the very precise second that they need water. That's not realistic. So, I think that you've got to make sure that your bonsai and your system, which is the most important thing that I want to get through this podcast, is that review now to see, what not necessarily you can do right now, but what should you think about for the future? And it might be that, something like a watering system is on the cards for next summer. It doesn't need to be now. Don't need to rush out and bust your gut to get it all done now, but it might be something that is going to be really beneficial for you to do. And the best time for me to do that is when summer's gone, when you've got no pressure. Don't do it next summer. Don't do it the week before Christmas and rush things. Get it set up nice and early. Test it thoroughly. Make sure it's going to work okay. Make sure there's no black holes. And then when summer gets here, it's like you can breathe easy. You can be stuck in an office job or whatever, and know that outside that air-conditioned space that you're in that sits at a mild 20 degrees day in, day out, when it's 45 degrees outside, you can run systems to make sure that your trees get the best possible care that they get. And even if you're listening to this going, well, I've done that, I've done this, I've done that, trees, they still get flogged. They still find that extreme temperature really, really harsh on them. And there'll be some trees in your collection right now that you'll look at and go, yep, they're fine. But then we'll get to autumn and you'll find that there'll be branches dying off on those trees. It's the nature of the beast. That's trees, that's bonsai. And we do everything we possibly can to try and avoid it. But is it completely 100% avoidable in every scenario? Nah, it's definitely not. So don't be harsh on yourself. Just do what you can, the best you possibly can to look after them and build the strength of the trees in these off periods. The autumn and spring feeds, this is when we see the benefit of those. Anyway, thanks very much for listening in. I love you all, I really do, and I wish I could give you and your bonsai a big cuddle and say it's going to be all right. We're going to get through the end of this summer period and we're going to come out the other side and be talking about beautiful autumn colour before you know it. So deep breath, we'll be okay. Until next time, as always, happy bonsai.